Hi guys, back again talking about Europe from Pax Europiana. Here is now my podcast about Turkey and about our relation with Turkey and what needs to be done now in the coming years. Because now this week is the EU Council meeting about Turkish-European relation, and that's really an important moment. There was also now the debate with Atlantic Council, and this is actually my response to exactly what was discussed there. Because we have to come to a new partnership with Turkey. Obviously, membership in a political union, to make it clear from the beginning what the Turkish government minister has now said, is unfortunately not possible. Because Turkey is a regional power with regional power interests in the Caucasus, in Syria. You know, it's very complicated to make European unification under a political unification. But what can be done, and that's also very important, is economic integration. My question was dismissed about the euro, but that's a major mistake. If I would be prime minister in Turkey, I would immediately simply adopt the euro, but that's maybe too radical, and I'm not the prime minister of Turkey, and I don't want to be. So don't worry about that one. But the currency board, the currency peg of the lira to the euro, like Bulgaria, like Macedonia, like Bosnia, it's so logical. Also Saudi Arabia is back to the dollar, by the way, or Jordan is back to the dollar. So it's not the only country in the world doing that. Turkish policy, currency policy is completely wrong. Like if Turkey would be a big power, independent in the world. Turkey is almost fully integrated in the European customs system already. Sure, upgrade of the customs union, very important, but the currency is the real game changer. And obviously there will be some resistance, but this is a unilateral sovereign decision of Turkey, what currency to adopt or what currency policy to pursue. Nobody can be blocking a peg to a currency board by Turkey, even if some in Paris might want, but they have no power to do that if Turkey wants. Obviously then you need also to have a hard currency policy, less money printing, less illusionary economic policy, but real kind of economic reality and reform, lower debts, monetary reform of the labor market, and so on and so on. That's the normal thing anyhow every country should do. So I think that's the best way. And obviously upgrade of the customs union, very good, but that will be used again as a leverage, as a blackmail against Turkey. So it's much better from Turkey to join CEFTA. And it was mentioned that this is a downgrade of the relation by some kind of xenophobe person from, I don't know who that was, but he was typically uninformed. I never said that Turkey should somehow lower its economic integration with Europe. I said it's just very useful to be in one trade system where Turkey is an equal partner. And Turkey is anyhow an important partner in Central and Eastern Europe. Is anyhow the former colonial master of the Balkans and of Ukraine. So it's just logical to take Ukraine and Georgia along and join CEFTA and transform it more in a political kind of trade integration system, and not just one where the poor people who are rejected by Europe have to stay in. Okay, and even if that's the case, invite the British, as I have said, and let's transform CEFTA in a real powerful third European trading system. Very good idea. I don't claim any credits for it. It was created already in 92. I was still a student then. So that's the plan, and that's, I think, it also can be much more can be done. Infrastructure integration, obviously, and much more things can be done economically for full integration. But anyhow, Turkey is already deeply integrated in the European system as a EU candidate country. But again, that's a project for 2050 beyond. You know, it is not going so easily. We first have to settle many of the regional issues together, and then it's the turn for Turkey. Once Turkey doesn't have this kind of big power ambitions, these internal problems, and also the regional issues are settled, which force Turkey to have this big power or regional power reality. Because you have to do things in Syria, in Caucasus, and in other areas, because simply you are not a normal country like let's say Bosnia or Austria. Here I'm broadcasting this from Austria. It's not, and then to join the European Union and to take the whole European Union to war in Syria is not gonna happen, and we have to be realistic. and also the internal problems from human rights and democracy, which Turkey unfortunately has decided to impose and conflict on itself after Gezi in 2013, they lead also to affected political integration. It's impossible, and additionally we are also a lot of racists in Europe and a lot of xenophobes, so it's impossible to win this battle also from, if I want it, I cannot win it in Austria, in Germany, in France. So it's a lost battle from the start. So ultimately it's much better first to get Ukraine and the Balkans in, Georgia and Moldova, and Turkey to be helpful on that one and really make sure that this all works, and then as a kind of final building stone of the European unification beyond 2050, it's possible for Turkey also to be a full member. But we first have to settle the issues with Russia, with the Caucasus and Syria and many others of these really important issues. And here let me talk about them, because you could do a major impact if, for example, you help now to get Kosovo and Cyprus into the Partnership for Peace. I mean, that's not a big issue, you know. The Cypriot issues will not depend on it if it's in Partnership for Peace, but it would help a lot. You could also help in Bosnia with your influence in Belgrade and with Dodik, with the Bosnian Serbs. I think if you really pressure, if Turkey really is helpful, then some of the resistance against NATO membership of Bosnia internally would smoothen, and the Americans could now bring Bosnia in NATO. Big success. Turkey was helpful, will be noted on the positive side. It's important that there are two major winners. Also to get Baku in Azerbaijan to recognize Kosovo, like now Israel has recognized, and be less toxic against the Jerusalem embassy of Kosovo would be a great thing. You know, that really makes you on the big list of things. In the Biden administration, I'm sure there's somebody on a Turkey desk or also in Brussels, and they say, oh, thanks, helpful, will be noted. Or maybe the world is not like that. I think it is like that, yeah. And it would be helpful to have some friends in high places, I think, for Turkey. It would be also helpful not to buy Russian arms and to hand back this S-400 and be decent. But that's another issue which is really very important when you listen to the American decision makers. So ultimately, and that's always useful if you're Turkey and you were now a decade alone in all these crises and you want to be with America again in order to settle all the issues, which are so many. So good. Which are the issues? Of course, Cyprus must be united as a federal entity inside the EU, with the euro and in NATO, obviously. That has to be achieved. So encouraging any kind of secessionism in northern Cyprus is an idiocy. It will never happen. It is a complete folly. We will never accept it. So let's better work on getting this settled inside NATO. Then obviously NATO power, Turkey has a big say in Cyprus via this. There can be also regular Turkish NATO troops in a NATO country, obviously. You can have a similar base, maybe like the British have 2 bases. They can all be leased to NATO much better, and there can be a lot of arrangements found to settle decency and have, I think, understanding, which works very well. On Kosovo, obviously, I have mentioned Bosnia already, but Kosovo also in NATO. Obviously, that's, I remember Erdogan in prison saying Kosovo, Turkey, Kosovo, and so on. No, Kosovo belongs to itself, and Kosovo should be in NATO, obviously. One moment. And as well, that was actually a very good part on the East Mediterranean to solve that the same way, like coal and steel community was created. Very good idea. I promoted since years. I saw that this is also the Turkish idea. Wonderful. Here is the EU agency to be established for Eastern Mediterranean gas exploration, EIB funded, and every shareholder gets a fair share of the revenues. All countries which have a claim will be fairly evaluated by independent expertise, and all, I think, can be done via that. And here we are basically in a coal and gas scenario. Perfect. Excellent. What else? On Azerbaijan, I think it would be very good to have Azerbaijan in NATO and in the EU-Turkish Customs Union. I never understood why this EU-Turkish Customs Union is something exclusively only for Turkey. Why not get also Ukraine and Moldova, Georgia and Azerbaijan in that? and call it CEFTA. Basically turn CEFTA into a similar. So CEFTA is the political integration of Southeastern Europe in a sense until they join the EU, and also as the free trade agreement, but in various forms and shapes ultimately. And of course Azerbaijan joining that one. I think it's also a wonderful idea, and I cannot see this as a decrease or what the ambassador said. It's a mystery to me. Anyhow, maybe my humble Austrian perspective is very different than Benjamin Haddad's perspective from a wisdom of Washington or Paris. He certainly has a lot of sovereign ideas, but I didn't find any idea of him actually for any settlement. Yeah? Just generalities. Yeah? No kind of concrete proposal comes from him ever. I say EU, join NATO. I say adopt the euro in Ukraine. This is the way to do it, yeah, and no other way. I think it's very logical. And when it comes to the Caucasus, I was clear. Yeah, Ukraine, Moldova, obviously. Here, very much Turkey could do a lot. Yeah, like promoting EU 37. What I say all the time: make sure they all come into NATO and be less pro-Russian and break this mésalliance with Putin, but support Turkey, Ukraine much more, Moldova, Georgia. These are all your former colonies. Yeah, you should help to get them into the EU and NATO, and that's basically then also entry point later in the 2050s for you once all these countries are in the European Union, because they will remember who helped them and they have a natural interest in Turkey's EU accessions in 30 years. Yeah, so that's much more logical, I think. Yeah? What else? Yeah? Syria, obviously, the big topic. Yeah? I have already called for intervention, I think 10 years ago. Yeah, it's a tragedy that we didn't do it, and now we have the mess. But situation is, obviously we should have a northern Syrian state which is controlled by Turkey under a mandate of the Organization of Islamic Countries, and then also to head towards independence of that northern Syrian state with the capital of Aleppo. The same in eastern Syria, and that would be the first two. I'm for 6 new states in Syria, like in Yugoslavia. That is much better, much fairer, much more humane, yeah? Much more reasonable for the long-term investment of international donor money to have smaller working states than to have an Assad Russian-backed up disaster as we have it today. So that is Syria, that is Ukraine. I think, yeah, that's I think all the regional issues to my best knowledge. Yeah, of course Libya, I forgot it. Yeah, yeah, Libya is now give it a chance. If that new reconciliation works, then why not to have it working? It's a successful country. We can conclude the DCFTA. I think that's basically possible. If there's a settlement, I don't want to mess around, and everybody should be happy. And then Libya can also be part of the Eastern Mediterranean EU gas system agency, and we will be excellent partners like with Morocco and with Tunisia. The DCFTAs are already almost finished, need only to be approved. So that's, I think, logical. And then, yeah, obviously, because I'm in Vienna, my long-term plan also, not long-term, as part of this resettlement, the reset, because what we see is no reset with Russia, that's a hostile state, but a reset with our ally, with our friend, with our partner Turkey. And to seal that, and if it's actually working, obviously to open a visa, that is we have done for most countries now in Eastern Europe, for Kosovo not, for Turkey not, for Belarus and for Armenia, Azerbaijan, and for Turkey. And it is it's just a formality. It would be very decent to do it, and I call for that. And additionally, to relocate OSZE here from the Hofburg. I'm now just some station by the subway from there. I will make some videos about that one as well. But to relocate it to Istanbul and to make sure that this is much closer to the Middle East and all the Arab countries to be member of OSZE, and Istanbul to be the new headquarters. I think it's much more logical position to have, and that's what I support as part of this reset. Good. That's the most important points I see at the moment. Let me think. Currency, regional issues, all Balkans, yeah, of course, Macedonia and Albania and Montenegro, now also Turkey, to be helpful for Euroization and for EU membership, to be EU 30. and that will be already a big major step, and criticize Cyprus and criticize Greece and Romania, Moldova, Ukraine and Georgia for not recognizing Kosovo. It's a scandal, their policy, and you have to show how un-European the Greeks ultimately are. They abuse their power vested in them as NATO allies, and of course in the last years they have been warming up to the Americans, and they are still not recognizing Kosovo. That's a scandal, and that must be, every day I would tweet it as a Turkish representative, but you don't mention it. It's a big mistake. And don't be so toxic about the Jerusalem issue for the Kosovo. It's a minor issue, and it was a good decision. Kosovo must be supported. And if Turkey is Serbia and no, whatever, Kosovo is Turkey, that was the sentence, sorry, I mixed it up. Then please support Kosovo more. I as an Austrian, to be so pro-Kosovo, and the Turks are so much making only problems. That's a bit confusing for me to understand. Anyhow, so far so good. I think these are now really most of the issues for the reset, and for this sweeping reset I recommend. And I call also, and let's not forget that, also, in Europe we are democratic countries and human rights, and as long as you don't treat your opposition better, and also human rights of and the minorities of the Kurds, and federalize your country into similar to like Austria, a federal state, or America, and do decent minority rights and human rights, anyhow, it's obviously not possible. And so there's 30 years for Turkey to reform. That is a possible scenario. It's a project 2050. I'm in favor, but there is a lot of reforms internally in the democratic, political, administrative system of Turkey still to be done in order to make that feasible. Yes, that is absolutely necessary, and you know very well, it's no doubt that most people in Turkey understand very well what Germany is, what Austria is, what America is, and this is the way to reform Turkey into a federal, free, NATO, EU, Euroized country, and then it's ready for the European Union, and that will take some years, and we will have to solve most of the issues together in the coming years, in partnership, in friendship, in community. And that's absolutely the way forward. Good. Thanks a lot. So, mahaba and bye from Vienna. Thanks for listening. For peace.